put them up. That's one of the protocols. I tell you now that as of now, the meeting is being recorded, and the recording will be available on YouTube on the committee's channel, on the board's channel. We will, once we have a quorum and we get on to the presentations and the other things on the agenda, we will, the protocol will be that after the presentation has been made, I'll open the floor for comments and discussion among committee members. And then after committee members have finished the discussion, I'll open it to discussion by any other board members who may join us, who are not members of the committee. And then I will open it to discussion to any other people who have joined us who want to speak on the particular issue that has been raised. And there will be a chance for anybody who wants to raise an issue at the end of the meeting when we have on our agenda a community forum. So all discussion should be limited to the topic at hand until we reach that community forum, and then we'll invite anyone who wishes to speak on any issue relevant to committee to do so. I'm the secretary, and I usually call the roll, but because I'm handling the chair part today, I'm going to ask our also esteemed colleague from the Community Board Office, Carol Ann Church, to call the roll. You're muted, Carol Ann.
Mute button always gets me. Sorry about that. Okay, good night, everyone. Sandy Barbosa.
She's here. There she is.
John Dew.
Present.
Kate Gilman.
Present.
Brian Howell. John Quinn.
Present.
Ciro Scala.
Present.
I do not see, but I will call just in case. Ernest Augustus. Doreen Gallo. Patrick Kalaki. I think
Here.
Patrick is on.
I'm here.
Oh, Patrick is here. Good, we have a
Patrick
quorum.
is here.
Thank you, Patrick. And as we noted, we'll note in the minutes that Mr. Meyer, Ms. Cullen Chung, and Ms. Gelbs are excused from tonight's meeting. Okay, any comment, or we don't have any changes? We have an amended agenda. And before I do that, for the other committee members, we welcome Kate Gilman, who's a member of the board, as a new member to the committee. You look like you're walking somewhere, Kate, but that's all right.
And I'm sorry, I'm in transit as we speak, almost there, but pleasure to be here.
Okay.
Coming
As long
from
as you can hear
economic
us,
development.
and we certainly can hear you. Welcome to the committee. Okay, you all have seen, committee members, you've seen the agenda, all in favor of approving it? Or
So
any
moved.
objections? Any objections to the approval of the agenda? Okay, and so now the first item, the first substantive item on our agenda is a presentation on the Downtown Brooklyn Vision Plan. And I have listed as the presenter Kate Sella from Bjark Ingalls Group, and JDS, I don't know which one she's from. Is anybody here on the presentation?
Yes.
I am.
And identify yourself, please. It's Kate, another Kate.
Yes.
I assume you're Kate Sella.
Yes, I am from.
Okay,
Yes.
the floor is yours.
Oh, sorry, just to interrupt before you start. Do you mind just spelling your last name for me for the notes, please?
Sure.
Oh, it's on the, I'll say it.
CBLLA.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Let me just share my screen quickly, and Antonia is going to start off the presentation for us.
Can everybody hear me?
Yes, we can.
Hi. Well, thank you so much for giving us the opportunity to present the project and all of the wonderful work that DBP and BIG are doing. I'm Antonia Devine. I'm the Director of Design at JDS Development Group. And I wanted to provide a brief introduction to our 9 Dekalb project before Kate walks you through the streetscape improvements. So our project is on a unique triangular site located in the heart of downtown Brooklyn at the intersection of Flatbush Avenue Extension, which is such a mouthful, Dekalb, and Fleet Streets. Kate, next slide, please. Thank you. It is a mixed-use project. That's okay. It's a mixed-use project with 550 residences, mix of condo and rental, where 30% of the rental units are affordable, and commercial space at the ground floor levels in the podium. We're working with shop architects who designed this truly lovely, elegant tower with cascading setbacks. We're sure you have seen all of the construction progress as it's rising on the skyline. And as a company, we specialize in a lot of adaptive reuse, combining old and new buildings in interesting ways. A crucial component of our project is the incorporation and restoration of the landmark dime savings bank, which will remain retail in use. And of course, I personally am equally thrilled that we are adjacent to the other Brooklyn landmark, the Junior's Cheesecake Factory. We pay particular attention with all of our projects to the ground plane, and we really admire the work that Downtown Brooklyn Partnership and Bjork Ingles Group are doing to enhance the streetscape. So with that, I will turn it back over to you, Kate.
Thank you. So we have, from our Downtown Brooklyn Vision Plan that was spearheaded by the Downtown Brooklyn Partnership, this project is one of the projects that's grown out of it. We're very excited to be here presenting this to you, and the JDS commissioned us to look at the area around 9 Dekalb, particularly because it's the one area in downtown Brooklyn that has a pedestrian street on Fleet Street, as well as Albee Square. So this is the existing plan prior to when we started working on it. And then this is our proposed plan. So we're trying to add additional seating spaces, additional activation and public spaces, sort of building on the language of Albee Square, carrying that up Fleet Street, as well as providing as many additional street trees and as much additional green as possible. So just as an overview for the distinctive, I believe you saw this in 11 Hoyt last year. So this is looking at the distinctive pavement. This is our approach, is to use standard sidewalk pavement, and then where we really highlight, have a nice soft curvilinear geometry at the planters and permeable paving below to highlight that green. And then on Flatbush, existing, I'm sure you're all familiar, it's a little bit, feels like a back of house area with the City Point services, as well as 9 Dekalb loading will also be off of Fleet Street. So we really wanted to kind of look at this area and study it. So what our design is proposing is that we add additional program areas in the similar language as Albee Square, around where downtown Brooklyn already sets out the chairs in front of dime savings and also in front of 7 Dekalb, and to kind of have this curvilinear pathway through it, one, to screen the loading beyond, and two, just to create more program space and slow down all different types of transit in terms of like bikers. So this is our proposed design. We're adding as many trees as we can, both in ground wherever possible. We do have a sewer main running through Fleet Street, so some of the trees are required then to be in raised planters. So this is the view from Dime Savings, looking back out towards the Fulton Mall beyond. So a lot of what you see in the background is existing Albee Square, and we're really looking to add bright, colorful furniture. We're looking to add a slightly different type of surface. It will match the concrete in color, but it's decomposed granite, so it's a little bit softer. It'll feel a little bit more pedestrian. And again, you can see the movable planters on the side. So then this is a view from Albee Square looking down Fleet Street. So we're proposing to add catenary lighting around the trees. And as you can see, we really start to screen the loading beyond. And this is a view from Fleet Street with where the curb is behind us, looking back towards Albee Square. So really trying to add a lot of green, a lot of vegetation to this area, and as well as a lot of activation through movable tables and chairs. This is a view of Flatbush Avenue, kind of showing very similar to what's currently in construction on 11 Hoyt. This curvilinear geometry with permeable paving, enhanced understory planting, and also having these sort of pinched planters where then we can incorporate benches where people are out of the main sort of path of circulation and as well buffered from the roadway behind. This is a view from Dekalb Avenue looking towards Albee Square. So juniors would be behind us, kind of again trying to really enhance the amount of green throughout the project. And then just to give you a sense of the planting palette, this is the full shade planting palette, which is really on Fleet Street. So trying to have a nice seasonal interest, so there's always something there no matter the time of year. And then this is the part sun, part shade planting, which is really in front of Dime Savings, as well as DeKalb and Flatbush Avenue. So again, these two palettes really complement each other and provide a lot of seasonal interest, is our hope. And I believe that's it. Sorry, John, you're muted.
Thank you. I have a couple of questions, but before I want to note that our esteemed chair, who is, as I said before he came on, gallivanting in the Galapagos, has joined us. Welcome, Sid. Can you hear us? You're muted.
Yeah, no, I can hear you. I can hear you clearly. I'm not in the Galapagos yet. I'm in where the volcanoes are in Ecuador right now. A place called Tenya.
Now, wonderful. Okay, well, if you
So
suddenly engulfed
listen.
in ash and lava, we'll know where you are. So
Right. So I'm gonna listen in for a while, because then I have to get ready for dinner and stuff. But I'll hang around for at least a few minutes.
a pleasure to have you. Now,
Thank you.
Now let me ask a couple of questions.
Sure.
First, is all of the things you've shown us within the footprint of the building, or is it on other people's property or city property?
It's on city property, the majority of what we showed you.
Okay, and so who's going to maintain the tables and the chairs and the planters that are not yours, are not the building owners?
So there will be a maintenance agreement between DOT, Downtown Brooklyn Partnership, and JDS, which has yet to be defined exactly how, but JDS or Downtown Brooklyn Partnership will be the ones maintaining it.
Okay, so there will be some way of maintaining everything that you've shown us.
Yes, we're not allowed to do it if that maintenance agreement's not reached with DOT. So yes, that will
Okay.
be worked out.
All right, and what is on your footprint? Is any of that you've shown us on your footprint that you will be wholly responsible for, that JDS will be wholly responsible for?
Technically, distinctive sidewalks, the way it works with DOT is typically the building owner is responsible. Since Fleet Street is a pedestrian street, it's, there can be an agreement struck with Downtown Brooklyn Partnership. So I don't have a full answer for you yet, other than one of the two parties will be taking care of it.
And what's the time frame for when you will need to reach that agreement before you can build out? Well, and who's going to build it? Is JDS responsible for the initial installation?
Yes, correct.
All right. So what's the timing of? I guess the first question is, when's the tower going to be completed?
Antonia, I'm not quite sure. Are you able to answer that?
We are topping out actually in just a few weeks, and then the building will be wrapping up in various stages over the next couple of years. But the building doesn't need to be done for the streetscape to be worked on. So we're looking at, I believe, next year.
And so have you entered into the negotiations with DOT and the other partners to?
We are currently about to get PDC approval for preliminary design. And once we receive that approval, the negotiations then take place before we get final approval from PDC.
And so my last question is, beside the discussion we're going to have, are you asking the committee to take any action?
No, we were just wanted to present it all to you to see, this is another built project that's part of the overall downtown Brooklyn vision plan. So we just wanted to present it to you all to give you a chance. The only action would be if you vote on it, and you would need to recommend it to PDC for approval.
Is that going to come back to us? I guess that's more a question maybe to Carol Ander or to Taya. Is that an action that's going to come back to us, or is that something we could do tonight?
Okay, I'm afraid I wasn't aware of this needing to go to PDC. I thought it was just a friendly information.
Oh, sorry, you don't go to PDC. You just write a letter in support. We received a letter in support of 11th late last year from the then president. So I'm happy to send that to you all if that's helpful, so you can see what was written, and then that letter submitted to PDC.
Okay, I'm a little confused. I'm sorry, Kate.
Mhm.
Is this presentation simply for informative purposes, or do you need a recommendation from the board to PDC?
We do need a recommendation from the board to PDC. So
Okay,
it's
thank you.
to inform
Okay.
you as well of the project.
Thank you.
Okay. All right, so that's the action. All right, I'll open it to any other committee members. Mr. Scala has his physical hand up rather than his,
I only use my physical hand because the electrical stuff bothers me.
okay.
Kate, very nice presentation. I love all the plantings. I think that's great for downtown Brooklyn. We need more trees and more flowers all the time. Are there provisions for any food kiosks and things like that? Bike racks, things like anything are you doing that, or is that part of the plan? Do you know?
There are no kiosks. There's the existing kiosk in LB Square that will be remaining, and there are existing bike racks in LB Square and around City Point. So at this point in time, we've not been asked by DOT to add any additional ones.
Thank you.
Any other committee members who have questions?
John Dew's hand is up. Can you hear me?
Now we can hear you, John. Go right ahead.
Okay. Kate, you mentioned, and this isn't about the plaza itself. You mentioned the affordable housing that is planned for that building. Can you give a brief overview of what percentage AMI you're talking about for the 30% affordable housing you said is going to be in the building?
That was me who mentioned that it was 30% affordable. I'm happy to provide more information. I don't have that at my fingertips right at this moment.
Okay. Just so as you're planning, the land use committee is very interested, just from a historical perspective. The downtown Brooklyn area, the entire downtown Brooklyn area, before it was upzoned in 2004, was a very low income community of color. These plans that are very lovely did not take the displacement of that community into account. So the affordable housing has not been affordable to the folks that have been displaced, and there has been no mechanism to give preference to those displaced folk. And as an overall comment, we have, at last report, up to 80,000 homeless folk, including many families in the city of New York, many of whom you see on the streets of Dekalb Avenue, Flatbush Avenue, every day. So we need to take that into account. That's just a comment that I've that I've observed since the 2004 upzoning, that there has been a substantial amount of gentrification downtown Brooklyn that came along with displacement.
Okay, John, thank you. Any other committee members who have questions or comments? I don't see any other hands. Carolyn, do you see anybody looking to speak? No, you're not. You're muted.
Sandy Barbosa is attempting to speak.
Okay, Sandy, unmute yourself and let's hear from you. There you go.
So I have a question because the downtown partnership came to our committee, I don't know, a couple of years ago, and they were going to paint all of Fulton Mall. Is that still happening? Because I don't see it in your plan. You're talking about distinctive pavements and trees, and I don't see paint. So is that not happening?
Well, that you're referring to the larger vision plan. This is just about Dekalb. So the Fulton Mall, the downtown, they should come back and show you the updates for that. I think that right now there's no funding for that. Believe they're trying to raise funding. But I think Regina should give you that update.
Anybody else from the committee? Carol Ann, see anybody? I don't see anybody in the chat. All right, are there any community members, anybody else who wants to make any comment or ask any questions about the presentation? And I don't see anybody raising their hands in the chat or on my screen. Is there anybody on the committee who wants to offer a motion to approve the plan or to recommend the approval of the plan to the PDC?
Mr. Quint, there is a hand raised by Mr. Richard Morrow.
Okay, Mr. Morrow.
I'm in the dark. We're trying to save electricity. But my name is Richard Morrow. I am the captain of the New York City Park Stewardship Program for the North Heights, Fulton Landing, Dumbo, Vinegar Hill, and Farragut housing, as well as a licensed citizen pruner. I don't usually come to these meetings, but a research study had come up from Surrey, a global center, that I thought was important for what you're planning these spaces. The study was led by the University of Surrey's Global Center for Clean Air Research. It put an extensive array of instruments in and around a hedge to measure the presence of various pollutants at numerous locations, identifying the effect of hedge at different heights and distances from the road. The extensive study into air quality along a road lined with buildings has confirmed that hedges can help mitigate traffic-related pollution up to 1.7 microns, reducing the pollutants breathed by pedestrians, young children, and cyclists. The study builds a new understanding of the distribution of different air pollutants around the hedge in a shallow street canyon where the width of the road is at least twice the height of the buildings which line it. By qualifying, one, the overall air pollutant concentration changes behind the hedge row, the effect of wind speed and direction on pollutant variation in the presence of hedge grows, and the horizontal and vertical distribution of air pollutants. The insight gained will guide the improved design of green infrastructure barriers, validate microscale dispersion models. In 2019, air pollution was ranked as the 4th leading risk factor for premature death worldwide. I included the link in the chat that sort of describes the study. I thought it was important to bring this up since you're talking about these inner city little park structures. So thank you for this opportunity, and I hope this is useful information.
Thank you, Mr. Morrow. Any other comments? See anybody else with their hand up, Taya or Carol Ann?
No other hands.
All
John,
right.
I do have one more comment. This is John Dew.
John.
From the Landmarks Committee. As a result of Hurricane Ida, it has become quite apparent that we need to pay a lot more attention to resilience and the impact of construction on all of the facilities that are required in our district. If I could speak specifically about what 9 DeKalb Avenue is doing, if anything, to deal with the water. As a suggestion, all of those tree pits, where possible, you would install those basins that capture the water. Has there been any concern, any attention paid to the idea of resilience?
Yes, so that's what we're talking about when we say permeable paving and permeable surfacing. That's a way to reduce the stormwater runoff because it can actually filter through the ground to the plants and helps with the overall long-term health of the plants. So that is sort of the basis of design of what we came up with, was a way to reduce stormwater runoff from entering our system and also ultimately benefit the additional greening we're adding.
If I could ask if you could share that information with Carol Ann and the board office so we can get a better understanding of how that functions.
Okay, sure.
All right.
Thank you.
All right, so I'll repeat again, is there anybody who wants to make a motion to recommend to the PDC approval of this, the improvements that have been presented by the builder, the developer of 9 Dekalb?
John Doe, so moved.
Okay. Is there a second?
I'll second
Mr.
it.
Scala just seconded it. Any discussion on the motion?
Sorry, Mr. Scala, did you second?
Say that again, Brian?
I may have spoken over Mr. Scala. I was just
Okay,
asking
put
Sarah
yourself
if
down
he-
for a second. I don't think Ciro cares about the honor. Any any discussion by the committee on the motion? Okay, let's see a show of hands. What?
I do have one other piece of discussion.
Go
The
ahead.
other piece that the landmarks is focused on is ADA compliance with entrance to the subway stations in downtown Brooklyn. Now, I know DeKalb Avenue has an elevator, but the next station down the block, Nevin Street, does not have the required elevator. Is there any discussion about this project contributing to that? I know it sounds like a question that I could have asked earlier.
Yeah,
Just
it's not really relevant to the discussion on the motion, but if Kate has an answer,
That's not part of 9 DeKalb because it's not within the 9 DeKalb property. It's someone else's property.
Yeah.
all right, so,
It doesn't have to be adjacent to the property. The city council just passed a law that extends this requirement to make all subway stations ADA compliant to all construction. I'm just putting that out there. The motion's
Okay.
on the floor, John, you can take.
all right, all right, let's see a show of hands in favor of the motion. I have an aye, Mr. Scala.
John
Sandy?
Doe is in favor.
Okay. Brian, I don't see your hand. Your hand's up. Kate's hand is up, so I think that's everybody. Oh, Patrick, you're sign. Oh, Patrick put his hand up. Very good. So we have everybody. So it passed unanimously, and so thank you, Andrea, Antonia, and Kate.
Thank you very
Okay.
much.
Thank you.
Thank
Okay.
you.
Sorry,
Our
just before we continue, I just want to figure out exactly how many members we have in the meeting.
We have
right now.
7. We have 7. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and it was all
That's what
7. Okay.
Thank you.
The next item on the agenda is a revocable consent for 109 State Street. Is there anybody here to make a presentation on that item?
Yes.
And that's, identify yourself, please.
My name is Jasper Crace. Sorry, that's all one word.
Yeah, I didn't know where to break it, so.
Yeah.
And you are from,
So I'm representing CWB Architects.
and on behalf of the
and-
owner, which identify the name of the owner again, Ryerson LLC, was that it?
Yeah.
Okay,
So let me just
you have a present,
get started and share my screen.
thank you.
Oh, shoot. Give me 1 second here. I don't have
Sure.
the accessibility is allowed. Okay, let's try that again. So difficulty.
Mr. Crace, you appear to be having a bandwidth issue. You're glitching a bit. A suggestion might be to kill your video feed, turn your video off.
Okay.
That might allow you to share screen. Okay, try again, please. Mr. Crace, are you still with us?
Yep.
Yeah, I see him.
Okay. I might try leaving the meeting and coming back in. I'm really sorry. This is really
No
unprofessional.
problem.
No, we're used to it. So right ahead. Zoom did not provide all the solutions, John, do that you wanted, but it's certainly better than what we used to have.
It's far superior to Webex. Yes.
Oh, I agree, but it's not, nothing's foolproof in COVID times, so. You know, John, when you were, while we're waiting for him to come back, now I can see you. Before, you were just a shadow and I couldn't tell if your hand was up or not. When your background.
That's because of his fancy background. He wants to make us all jealous. Bright lights, New York City.
Yeah, but he was just a shadow. Did everybody see just a shadow? And
I didn't turn the overhead light on.
oh, okay. Well, now we know. Okay.
By the way, I'm doing this from my Galaxy 10 phone.
That's pretty.
So you're on your phone.
I'm on my phone. I'm always on my phone.
Okay, Mr. Grace is back and he shared
back.
his screen. Okay. Tell us about what your application is.
Can everybody hear me now?
Yes, we can, and we can see the
Okay, excellent.
pictures.
I'm very, very sorry about that. Now I'm very embarrassed and flustered. So we're going to jump down in scale several 100,000 square feet here to a residential application for revocable consent with DOT. This project has already been presented to the community board land use. It was viewed favorably. It's been approved by DOB and LPC. And I'll just quickly run through what we're doing here. You can see 109 State Street, which is on the corner of State and Sydney Place. And along, you guys can see my cursor, right?
Yep.
Okay, so along the front of State Street and then along Sydney Place, we have what is called this historical encroachment. So this is an existing historical encroachment over the property line of 109 State Street, which hugs the face of the brick. So you can see it in these photos here. It's essentially this fenced in planting area. And what we're proposing on this project is in part of our renovation to the project, which involves some work to the rear facade and an entrance that is about 2.5 feet down from sidewalk level. We're essentially extending this planted area, providing steps down to gain access to the rear entry of the building. And then further extending the planted area to meet the northern end of the property line here. So I will just show you, and I know there's sort of a lot of clutter on these drawings right now, but the red is basically what we're adding in this proposed plan here. And another thing I should mention is that part of our application and our discussions with DOT have noted that we need to provide a 5-foot clearance between this historical encroachment, which we are refurbishing. And in doing so, the existing clearance between these tree pits, which you can see are these sort of wooden tree pits here, are not a ADA compliant dimension. So in doing this project, we've actually been in talks with parks and have gotten permission and already have approval to remove these wooden tree pit borders. And in doing so, we will actually get the 5-foot on our refurbished historical encroachment. So I guess in a way, this is actually improving the pedestrian traffic on the street. And then, so just to give you another overview of what this looks like in elevation. So we have the existing condition down below. You can see where this historical encroachment ends. And then in the elevation on the top, you can see the extension of the fence and the steps dashed in going down to the rear yard. And then here are just a few details of how that's working. And I think that's pretty much it.
So is the consent solely for the new work, or is it for everything that exists?
It's solely for the new work.
Okay.
So basically, it's solely for what you're seeing in red here.
Because what is, I happened to walk past it today, what's there already on the front on State and also around on Sydney is just grandfathered in?
Yep.
Okay. Because I mean, there's scaffolding there now. These pictures are obviously pretty old.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a sidewalk bridge there already.
Yeah, we're doing a abatement on the roof.
And you're gonna fix the fence that's already there? Because it's a bit of a mess.
Yeah, we're going to refurbish it.
Okay. All right, so the application is actually limited only to that area in red because everything else is already grandfathered and you don't need a consent for that?
Nope.
Or correct, not nope, you mean?
Yeah, correct.
It's correct. Okay. All right. Thank you. Any members of the committee have any questions or comments on the application for the revocable consent?
This is John Dew.
Go ahead, John.
The work on the tree pits, the trees actually remain. The same issue that I asked for 9 Dekalb, is there any opportunity to create those under tree bioswale type of contraptions that hold water?
I'm not aware, and we're not augmenting the size of the tree pit in any way. We're not actually doing any work to the trees themselves. We're simply just removing that wooden border you could see, which is actually not a park standard detail. So they're actually happy we're getting rid of that.
Okay, thank you.
I don't know if I'm answering your question or not, and I don't know if I know the answer.
Yeah.
Yes,
Any,
you did.
any other committee members have any questions or comments?
Yeah, I have, this is Brian Howell. I
Go
have
ahead,
just a couple of questions somewhat for the minutes. Removing the tree pit covers, do you mind just going back to one of the site plans? It appeared that there are 3 tree pits, 2 within the existing historical encroachment area that has been previously approved, and a 3rd tree
this one
to
here?
yeah, exactly. Are you removing the covers to all 3 or just the one that you were hovering over with the cursor?
So this one here is actually an existing detail that we're matching with removing the wooden barriers here. So there's no border to this tree pit currently, and that's actually a fairly typical detail for this street. So we're essentially just restoring these two strange wooden bordered tree pits to what appears to be the natural condition on the street.
Got you. Thank you. And just a follow up to that. That's not for the minutes, but so I live, a block away, and we've lost several of our trees because people have driven, trucks or cars into them, and usually those that don't have fences or coverings. I know that you're removing them on the interior block side to gain the necessary clearance. Is there any way to leave the coverings on the, I know you're not allowed to have street facing fences either, but is there any possibility of like leaving the sort of perpendicular fences to some extent where you can gain the clearance but deter people from driving into them?
Well, I don't know if any of the boards stuff as they're 4-inch by 4-inch wooden members, and you're actually, yeah, like you said, you're not allowed to have street facing. You're not allowed to close off the borders on the street anyway. So I'm not sure if that is helpful or not, but
yeah, sorry, you were cutting out a little bit, but I think what you're saying is that like they're single pieces of wood, and I'm wondering if rather than removing the perpendicular ones, so not the interior, not the street facing ones, the beams can be cut down so that you can get the necessary clearance but still provide the deterrent to people that drive up onto the curb next to a tree.
We haven't considered that, but sorry, I'm getting the connection is unstable. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, you were in
Okay.
and out. Hear you now.
Okay, I apologize. We hadn't considered that, but mainly, basically what we were trying to achieve was what appears to be the typical existing condition for all of the tree pits on those streets anyway. So yeah, I guess to answer your question, that had not been considered.
Okay, thank you very much.
Zero, you're muted. Zero, you're muted. Unmute. There you go.
To echo Brian's comment, am I correct? You will not have any kind of protection of the trees. They will all be gone. There won't be anything to protect them at all.
No, it will essentially be a concrete just dying into the planting material.
So where the soil from the
sidewalk.
tree, the soil from the tree will just meet the sidewalk.
Yeah.
That's kind of unusual for Brooklyn Heights.
It's almost
never
every
seen that
tree on the
before.
street
What's that?
is like that. Almost every tree on the street is like that.
Almost every tree on the street is like that, but that's the minority of Brooklyn Heights. I think most trees do have some protection for planting so that it doesn't, the dogs and all the other stuff that happen with trees. I mean, Brian made a very good point, but I would suggest that you reconsider something there because it just isn't regular. If you look at Brooklyn Heights, there's always some sort of a fence or a metallic metal fence or something to protect the tree. These trees will basically not be protected at all.
Yes, I suppose you're right. And we could look into the idea of providing one of those decorative metal grates as a tree guard.
I think that would be mostly appropriate because I think when I look at Brooklyn Heights,
I think what we were providing.
You're fading out, I think. I'm not sure.
Mr. Kreis, you're frozen.
Sorry.
That's okay. Just rewind about 3 seconds, please.
Sorry, guys.
Go ahead.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, we can.
You can hear me now?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, sorry, I'm, where were we?
I think I made a suggestion that possibly you could reconsider the layout of the tree pit, where you would sort of match it with most of the Brooklyn Heights trees in the neighborhood, where they do have a metal grate around them with the opening towards the street curb.
Okay.
They're very common. I don't feel comfortable with the tree pit just being left like that. That's not really normal for the trees anyway.
Okay, it's a valid concern.
All right, any other comments, committee members? Seeing none, any?
I have a question.
Oh,
I have a
go ahead, Karen.
question.
Yeah, go ahead, Caroline.
Yeah, I just want to confirm who's responsible for restoration after the framing is removed? And how soon will the restoration occur?
That would be
after that happens?
are you talking about the tree pit?
Yeah,
So that would be our general contractor who will be doing the work.
So it's the owner of the
And-
building's responsibility as opposed to the city's.
That's right.
thank you.
All right, anyone else who wants to be heard on the issue? Seeing none, does anyone have a motion to approve the granting of the revocable consent as limited for that short piece of sidewalk from where it already exists to the back line of the property? Anybody want? Cyril, you're making the motion?
I'm not making a motion. I just want to make sure that within the motion, there is some caveat regarding our recommendation to add the metal tree protectors. I don't know how to present it, but that's what I would like to.
Basically, it's to approve the consent and to recommend
Yes,
that proper protection for all three trees, because really only one of those trees is within the sidewalk that the revocable consent applies to. So
I would include all three.
okay. Brian, you got that?
Yes, the motion is
Okay.
to approve the revocable consent
and- Go ahead.
with a recommendation to add covers, fences for the three trees as much as practically possible within what is being asked for, the necessary clearance, right?
Okay, anyone want to make that motion? Cyril? I'll second it. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none. Who's all in favor?
I'm in favor. I said I would make the motion if you
Oh,
don't
okay.
have a motion maker.
We already did. Cyril made the motion and I second.
Okay, good. Okay.
Let's see.
John, you're playing in the city. You haven't joined the meeting.
Yeah. Is
That's
Kate,
the Brooklyn Navy Yard, Cyril.
Kate, you're still on? I don't see Kate anymore. Oh, there she is.
I'm
It's
here.
dark now, and she raised her hand. Okay. Kate, Brian, Patrick. I don't see,
I
Patrick
saw
raised,
Patrick did a thumbs up.
he electronically raised his. Okay, everybody approved, unanimously approved. Thank you, Mr. Crace.
Thank you all.
Okay. All right. Next item on the agenda is a discussion on the fiscal year 2023 Statement of Needs and budget priorities. And so I'm going to turn the floor over to our in-house expert on the statement of needs, Ms. Church.
I don't know about expert.
You
But
know more than the rest of us, so that makes you an expert.
so as we all know, and for community members who are on this call tonight, the statement of district needs is a charter mandated responsibility for all community boards to present to the city a statement of what the geographical needs of that area are. And those needs can cover every aspect of life: transportation, housing, social services, safety. So this statement is really important for us to take a step back and think about the things that affect quality of life in our district. I can say ideally we would, it would be more in depth. It would provide a problem statement and data to back that problem statement. Let the city know why this is something we need. What would it improve for us? So we have, members have added some statements. Remember though, that the problem itself has to be a problem statement. It can be a comment. It shouldn't be something for discussion. Some great ideas came in, but they were more like discussion items. And it has to be something that can be resolved through funding. So, you know, there's certain questions that were asked. Well, they're discussion items. They're not fundable things. So with that said, we'll begin. I'll try to share. Oh, I have too many things open to share safely.
Ms. Church, would you like me to show?
Okay, I think I'm having problems with my 1-2 screen.
We can see that.
What are you seeing?
The statement of needs T&PS tab.
Oh, okay. I'm seeing something else on my screen. So great. So we can we can look at our comments one by one, and just look at them first, and then we'll decide which ones we want to take forward. I suggest that we narrow them down if possible, see which ones are hefty enough, because they're all going to get voted on. Our submission is going to get voted on. The board members are going to select the items. We're only allowed 14 total, 25 capital, 25 expense, 15 capital. Am I right on the breakdown, Taya? It's 40 items in total. Additional items can be added, but they're not reviewed in the same manner as you move further down past 40. The city doesn't really address those items. So the chronological order that they are on this list doesn't mean anything. It's just the one that was entered initially. So the first one is statement says individuals with physical disabilities cannot access stations in Community District 2. This inhibits these individuals from traveling to and from or throughout the district. And the result we'd like to see is universal access, including working elevators and escalators. And the proposal is to add these items to all subway. Now, this is well stated. However, this is an MTA item. And so this probably should be picked up with the MTA and doesn't
Caroline,
belong.
the city council recently passed that process that allows developers to build 20% larger in order to fund subway access. So how does that compute in this? Has that been ironed out? Is this something that we should continue to include in this process? Or is that going to be handled separately?
You know, that's a very good question, Mr. Du. And I'm not sure I have an answer for that right now. Because that is a game changer.
Okay, well, the other piece with the disabilities had to do with the audible monitors for folks crossing the street. Is that in here?
I would suggest that probably be a different item. If we want to add that, I would say that should be a different item.
Okay, that's not in here?
No, it's not in this problem statement. So,
Because we do have them on some corners, but it's not consistent. And certainly in the downtown district, with all the traffic, that would be helpful. It's also helpful for non-ADA folks because it's an audible signal that it's okay to cross in the crosswalk.
I know what I'm saying. I'll rephrase it. What we want is district-wide. And I guess it's improved street safety.
It's ADA compliance.
But it's improved pedestrian safety, right? It's part of ADA compliance, but.
That sounds perfect.
Right, improve pedestrian safety. We want more audio signals. Is that it? Next, enforcement of overweight trucks. The proposal is funding for automatic monitoring of trucks.
Carolyn, when we talked about that, what we did not understand is when a truck is identified as being overweight, what is supposed to happen?
It gets pulled off, it's heavily fined and pulled off at the next exit. If I rule the world, that would be the response, but I don't have an answer to what happens. I know there's a fine. I don't know what's the next.
Right. I mean, it sounds good, but it's not explained enough to know how it's supposed to be carried out, how it's supposed to be made effective. Is it a license?
This is Ciro. I agree with John. I think it's an important aspect of the needs. But maybe I do believe that the governor may have something on her desk regarding this issue, but I'm not sure if I'm mixing something up. But I think it's an important issue going forward. I'm not sure how it is adhered to or what fines are given, but I think it's important that we as a community board put that in here somehow.
So, okay, so why do we need enforcement of overweight trucks on the BQE would be the question. Because then that truly is the problem.
Yes,
right?
It's a problem for the pavement, for the noise, and for all the other issues that deteriorating highway is happening. And that trucks, overweight trucks have impacted on the highway greatly.
Carolyn,
But that's another issue because the BQE is a state roadway, except by the cantilever, which was deeded over to New York City DOT. So
Well, that's the
again,
part, that probably is the one that is, needs to be discussed. That's the part that the trucks do impact.
but the overweight signal should be before it gets to the
Yes.
beacon,
Yes,
to the cantilever, I should
Right.
say.
Carol Ann,
Yes,
you can hear me? It's Sandy.
hear you, Sandy.
So this whole thing, you know, it's like moving something that's bad in one place and putting it in another place. So the trucks are getting off and coming down Atlantic Avenue, and we are a truck route. Then they turn down Smith Street to, you know, continue the truck route. But this is a half-baked plan because you're taking a problem from the BQE and bringing it down, bringing it down to the local streets. Even though Atlantic Avenue is a truck route, it's still, you know, Atlantic Avenue is a connector, it's a local street, it's a truck route. And I just think trucks that are overweight shouldn't be coming into the city anyway. And it's just bringing them off the BQE and making a problem down below.
So I think that the issue is that overweight trucks shouldn't be anywhere.
Right.
Because of the damage they do to all roadways. So this need is asking for increased enforcement of trucks on the BQE. It doesn't mean to send them anywhere else. It's a specific location, a specific problem. Notice the item below says to increase truck enforcement on neighborhood streets, which is also an issue we've been having. The office has been seeing more complaints about that over the last few months. So it's not ignoring the fact that, you know, we need truck enforcement throughout the city. That need doesn't negate the other needs. I hear what you're saying, but it doesn't negate it.
So Carol, for purposes of this, for purposes of what we are asking for, are we asking for truck and weight enforcement on the local streets, or is this request for the BQE?
Okay, so I'm not the one making the request. This is stuff that I got out from the committee or members added. So my personal thought based on what's here is that this particular item is about overweight trucks on the BQE.
that's my understanding also. That's the overall BQE issue. And one of the big issues that has been discussed has been the fact that overweight trucks, since the BQE is in such bad shape, that one of the contributing issues is that overweight trailers and trucks have been plowing their way on that highway, which of course we know is old and can't take it. So I think this addresses that. I don't think it negates what Sandy is saying at all. I think, as you said, Carol Ann, both issues are co-joined, but this particular line item specifically points out the fact, trying for the rehabilitation of the BQE, this is one factor.
Mr. Quint?
Yes.
Or Ms. Church? Hi, this is Taya. I know that you may not be able to see the chat at the moment because of the spreadsheet on the screen. I just wanted to just remind this committee that this board has already reviewed the 4-part plan forth by the mayor's office, and part of that plan includes this statement. The city will install weigh in motion technology, which will automatically fine overweight trucks. And the NYPD has already increased weight enforcement. Summonses have increased 5-fold since February. So it may be worthwhile for someone on this committee to review the requests in this spreadsheet against the QE 4-part plan, which has already been approved by the board, because you wouldn't want to contradict.
Well, yeah,
That's good information. I was not aware of that. However, what we are speaking to is what happens on the street. So Sandy's issue is appropriate to use as an example of what needs to be done by the Department of Transportation for downtown Brooklyn.
Well, I think, you
Go
know,
ahead, John.
yeah, my recollect, you know, when we've been doing this for all the years I've been on the board, and correct me if I'm wrong, Taya or Carol Ann, these are going to go on the list that everybody's going to do their ones and twos, you know, rank. So that, okay. So it may well be that the way this specific item is stated, enforcement of overweight trucks, maybe that should be it. Enforcement of bans on overweight trucks, period. Because of at the moment, under this administration, the BQE has reached high priority, and they have indicated, as Taya just read from the specific plan relating to the BQE, that they're going to do this work to benefit the BQE. But what Sandy is really saying, and I think what other people, John and other people have said, that as far as our community board is concerned, we need this enforcement everywhere. And we don't have to worry about the BQE because the city's going to take care of that. We don't have to put that on our list. We don't have to make that a top priority because it's already been implemented, or it will be implemented certainly by the time this, you know, as was pointed out in the chat, all of these are for projects starting July 1, 22. So we're 9 months away from that. I think that that the work involving catching the overweight trucks on the BQE, we don't need to ask for money for that because that's a priority that's already been funded and met. But what we do need, and as Sandy has pointed out, because all of these trucks may be pushed off onto the local roads because they're afraid of getting caught on the BQE, we need some sort of enforcement within the community district. But I'm not sure that we know what that method is. I mean, the overweight trucks can't go anywhere. And so whether they're on a residential street or on a major artery or on a truck route, they shouldn't be there wherever they are. So what we
Can I jump in?
Go ahead.
Yeah, I just want to jump in on your point, John. There's legislation that's been passed by the legislature awaiting the governor's signature for this speed enforcement, weight in motion, automated speed enforcement.
That's exactly what I was alluding
weight
to,
enforcement.
right.
But just for the BQE or generally?
For the BQE.
BQE.
But it's worth noting that behind this law is the finding that some of the trucks are twice the weight of the limit, which is not set for the BQE, not even set for highways, but set for trucks, period. It's insane. So certainly I do think this should be generalized. But I would suggest actually a different way to generalize this proposal, which is the automated enforcement feature, because it's the burden or the suffering of this committee that there are so many issues that come up that we end up being told, well, we really can't enforce that, or the police, there are only so many police. But with automated speed enforcement and automated weight enforcement, there's a real potential to improve the quality of life related to those issues. And maybe what we could do is, propose in this additional pilot programs to test out, the use of those things, or additional sites or something of that sort. So it's also true, by the way, actually, that the police have been enforcing the overweight trucks on the BQE, but their estimate is that they've gotten a very small percentage, like 1 or 2% of the number of overweight trucks off the roadway. And that, it's still well over 90% that are there. So it doesn't work unless you have automated enforcement.
So Patrick, would you like to make that up? Oh, I'm sorry.
No, Karen, please, you go, but I would like to go after you.
No, I was just asking Patrick if he can phrase that into rephrase it for the problem statement.
Well, I guess I would say, the problem is that a number of quality of life issues related to unsafe driving. I think we could generalize it to that. Unsafe driving are impossible, or very difficult to enforce with police resources. Therefore, we would propose additional resources for automated enforcement technologies, specifically for speed enforcement and weight and overweight vehicle enforcement.
The problem.
Okay, so
in
wait, I'm
downtown
sorry.
Brooklyn-
I said that I would go after Carol Ann, reword for Patrick. I would like to add into, when we're talking about automated enforcement and weight and speed, that another factor to consider is that we have many over length trucks. We have a lot of trucks that carry 53-foot trailers that aren't legal on any inch of roadway in the entire borough. Not a highway, not an alley. And it is very easy to automate the enforcement of over length vehicles without any sort of electronic devices. We simply need to, I forget what those bollards are called, but they have on medians on, say, like Houston Street, or new ones on Atlantic Avenue farther east of here. We can put, medians or other simple design elements in our streets that really prevent people from driving 53-foot trailers down our streets. And then we don't need to have, I'm totally in favor of having automated weight enforcement too. I'm just saying that many of the overweight trucks are also over length. And if we can prevent people through street design from driving over length trucks down our streets, then we won't have to devote nearly as many resources to, an entire camera system.
Okay, Carol Ann, we need to get past this issue. We have to define for what you're going to put on the chart. So the overall issue has to do with the weight of the trucks, as I understood it. And if that is the case, we need a process that identifies and addresses overweight trucks that come into the downtown Brooklyn corridor from the BQE. DOT has to figure out the best mechanism. We need to invite them and ask them to explain to us what they think they might be able to do to solve the problem. But for your report, we are just identifying the problem, not the solution.
Well,
I disagree, John. The problem is that we are constantly told on issue after issue that we can't do anything about that. We don't have enough resources. It's automated, technology is a different approach. So I disagree with what you said.
I don't see how you could disagree. We don't solve the problem. We point out the problem. We cannot tell DOT what to do to solve the problem. We can make all kinds of suggestions, even in this report, like whatever the monitors are, or whatever. DOT has already told us what they're going to do, but what they're doing is not satisfactory. So we are reissuing the problem because what they presented to us has not worked. But we knew this from the very beginning when we began talking about the issues that would come as a result of reducing the cantilever to 2 lanes. Those problems exist. DOT is well aware of them, and it still exists. I don't know what's supposed to happen with those trucks when they are directed off the BQE. That's what we asked DOT. What happens when a truck is told that it cannot extend its route onto the cantilever?
But I don't know if they stop and they probably unload it because they can't send it through local streets. Maybe just goes on its way, and the whole thing about the enforcement is that the fine, I don't remember what it is, but it's a pretty big fine, is really enough to act as a deterrent. But I think we have this one secure. If anyone has anything else to add to it.
I agree. You got the language you need.
We can wordsmith it. It's just like, this language is just like placeholder right now, but it'll probably be wordsmithed a bit for the final document.
Can I just say something? I know we want to move on, but when Hank Gutman made the presentation about the BQE and the 20-year fix, or whatever they want to call it, he only talked about a long-term plan. So it wasn't really a plan that was going to be enforced, but it was like alternatives to trucks, you know, freight, you know, water, smaller cars, bringing freight in. But it wasn't, you know, it's not really something that they were really going to do anything about. And long-term could mean, you know, it means long-term. It doesn't mean now. So they've taken, again, how I started this was they've taken the problem, or they're trying to, seems like a small percentage of the overweight, oversized trucks off of the BQE, the cantilever, and letting them come down to the local streets. And what they'll tell you is DOT will say, well, they're coming onto Atlantic Avenue and then down Smith Street or to J, their truck routes anyway. But they shouldn't be here. They need to stop them from coming into the city, period. I think that's what.
We could move on, but the problem is the 2 lanes on the cantilever have not solved the trucks problem on the cantilever, but it's created a problem on Atlantic Avenue. So, but we can get past this because we're not going to solve it tonight.
We're not. Oops.
So Carol Ann, I had also submitted that given that there is a movement towards reduction of cars, that every bus station have both seats and countdown clocks.
So can we go through these? And because I think that's in there. I do remember you adding something about seats in every station, at
Okay.
every bus stop. I do remember that. So we're going to so then here's another one which goes to what Sandy was saying. I think Taya combined it. Did you, Taya?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, great, because that's what would have probably had to happen. Overweight and overland routes are being rerouted. I don't know if they're being rerouted actually, but drivers are driving through residential neighborhoods, resulting in getting stuck, creating congestion and air quality hotspots, and increasing potential for crashes. This is all our neighborhood streets, actually. This is not just, this is district-wide.
Lines 4 and 5 are very similar, and line 4 actually has more data points at this point, so you might want to consider combining those.
Yeah, they'll have to be combined. It's the same thing. Increased traffic volume on local streets and traffic routes create congestion and air quality hotspots. Right. So we'll just combine some of the detail in 5, the locations in 5, with 4, and I think we have a thing, except the request in 5 was to create a pilot for residential parking permits program. You know, some of the problem statements came in, but they didn't have a proposal, and I made some up. So please feel free to make the changes.
It's John. I'm back on. My internet went down. I don't know where we are. Did we finish the discussion of overweight and now we're on to the new topic?
Yeah, we're on neighborhood streets.
Okay, thank you. I apologize. What if, it has to happen on the night I'm chairing the meeting. Okay.
That's life.
Yep.
Increase-
Continue, everyone. Is there,
So- Yeah, so increased traffic volume on local streets and truck routes create congestion and air quality hotspots. And oh, is that what I had there? Create a pilot for residential parking permits program. Any comments here?
What number
Yeah.
is that, Carolyn? What number are you up to?
5, line 5.
Okay.
I'm not very clear how the proposal is related to the
Yeah.
problem
Me
statement.
either. Me either.
Say,
Does
I
the
think
author
something
want to
like
speak
that.
up or should we just move on?
Well, I crafted the problem, but I don't think that's a proposal. Something probably got moved around a little bit.
Well, Carolyn and Taya, one of the issues that we have to project going forward is how much additional traffic is going to result from all of these high rises that are currently under construction with hundreds of apartments in each of them. They all generate a lot more activity. How is downtown Brooklyn supposed to absorb and function with every parcel being built into a 100-story building?
That sounds like a request for a study, which I believe is covered further down. We might
So
want to keep, we might
okay.
want to keep moving because I think we have 29
Okay.
lines to get through.
Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, this proposal doesn't match this. But we'll combine this with the previous one. We talked about street infrastructure for hearing impaired persons. This one is a favorite of Mr. Du and me because I use it often. The heavily used pedestrian island at Geralman and Port Street is in disrepair and a hazard to pedestrians who may easily trip and fall. The proposal is to ask DOT to allocate funding to do the repair. Any comments on this one?
If it's not fixed in the next 6 months, I'm gonna go and trip on it.
Don't say that.
I
And
have a picture of it. You know, I already have a picture of the,
Then someone entered this one. The blocks on Atlantic Avenue in Community District 2 are long and pedestrians attempt to cross mid-block, often endangering lives. Our proposal is to create mid-block crossings. What is it?
I didn't write that one, but I do know that there was some activity, not last year, either early last year or in 2019, I think by former council member Constantinides in Astoria to create mid-block crossings on Steinway Street. I don't know whether or not DOT picked that up, but certainly it's been proposed elsewhere in the city on
We
commercial blocks.
we tried to do that a long time ago. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can
Yeah.
hear you.
Yes. Good, okay. So we wanted to do mid-block crossings on Atlantic Avenue maybe 2 decades ago. And I think DOT said we didn't have enough pedestrians to warrant a mid-block crossing. I don't know, it's the bureaucracy. I don't know, but that's what I remember.
that was 10 years ago. Put it in again.
Okay, it's in. I see somebody, it's in.
So we like that one, okay. Hopefully I can get the crash mapper and put in the data on that. Next one, Unlicensed motorized vehicles do not follow the rules of the road, often traveling on sidewalks at maximum speed and crashing into pedestrians.
Hey, they can have licenses or not in that. True.
Huh?
I said, even licensed or not, I think that that's true.
Just a reminder that this needs to, while this is not wrong, it does need to be expressed as a request for capital or expense funding.
Yeah, I don't understand how we can address that.
Me either.
I think it's a state. I also think that the responsibility for this would lie with the state.
And the state has acted recently, last year when the state passed the bill to finally get electric bicycles out of the gray area they were in, saying conclusively that they do not need to be registered for operation, but there are certain classes of, and this is where the terminology gets all confused, of like mopeds of a certain size that do need to be licensed, but ones beneath that size do not. So I think the state has actually already said it's preempted, or the state has already passed legislation saying which classes of motorized vehicles need to be licensed and which do not.
I hope the one that hit me has to be licensed.
I think it's a very important statement. I'm not sure. Maybe I think it has to be said because it's becoming a major problem in our area. So how it's being policed or whatever, this is something the community board, I think we're going to hear a lot more about this. It's going to come up to haunt us. So I think we should be in the forefront of this in some way and keep the pressure on DOT or anybody to make sure that these vehicles are licensed or whatever and are put in the proper position, because it's getting really very, very bad.
It is very bad.
So what I'm hearing is that we need a joint meeting between DOT and NYPD to discuss enforcement issues, whether it be truck enforcement and how that happens, what happens with it, and enforcement of these motorized and assist vehicles, but and probably make some statement or recommendation out of that. But I'm not sure how we fit that into an actual need. Like, remember when we state the problem, the response we want to get is something that needs funding. Like it has to be an expense request.
Well, maybe the expense would be the enforcement really has to be key to this, because legislation could take years and we need something to happen now. So I brought this up for years at the 84th Precinct Council meetings about when it was first the electric bikes and then the mopeds, and maybe they need during lunch and dinner time to have some extra patrols on, I know my wide sidewalk, I have to watch, my hip is broken and I have to watch both ways when I'm out on the sidewalk because they speed, they weave in between people. And I think if we ask for more, like maybe a special patrol to deal with this in terms of a budget item. The NCOs are, if they're doing it, it doesn't, I mean, I never see them over where I am.
Ms. Church, I do recommend we move on because this is not a capital or expense request, but the committee doesn't need to wait for city agencies to come to you requesting a letter of recommendation. The committee is very free to initiate a letter of recommendation to the full board to be addressed to DOT NYPD. It doesn't have to.
Taya, that's a great idea.
As I suggested, before that happens, maybe we need to talk to DOT NYPD to find out how this whole thing works, so that any recommendation that we make will be, grounded.
I agree. I don't think we're going to be able to fit this square peg, this round peg into this square hole of this statement of needs exercise.
Oh, I agree with that. It's not a need statement. Next one. Vehicles exceeding the speed limit create congestion and initiate crashes with other road users, sometimes causing fatalities. The proposal is to build a bulb outs on wide or busy streets.
So, sorry, going to be prescriptive here. Can we simply ask for, sorry, I don't want to tell DOT exactly what to do, but I kind of want to push them to be a little more imaginative beyond bulb outs. I don't know if you guys are familiar with like one-earths, which are, you know, rather than the street being straight, the street sort of curves along its path. Maybe, you know, parking is on the side and then it's moved to the other side to like reduce the ability of people to travel at speed because they have to navigate, you know, not tight, but something turns to slow down. So can we just, instead of saying like bulb outs, but like it's full, you know, toolkit of street calming techniques or techniques and elements.
Are we good with that one? Okay, I guess I can move along. The area under the elevated Brooklyn Queens Expressway is under maintained. I
don't know
think
what that-
what we can say is area under the elevated PQE requires paving. It is in bad condition.
Actually, Ms. Church,
Hmm?
there aren't any enterprise, well, not many. I'm gonna call you Caroline now. Could you flip over to line 10 on the HES tab? And I wonder if maybe language could be added to that one because it's already pretty well stated. Line 10. Yeah, that one.
Well,
Maybe language could be added to that.
well, I don't know because paving is under DOT.
Oh, that's true.
So it's different agencies.
These are, I mean, once the committee silos are eliminated, these are going to end up right next to each other anyway.
Yeah, but the responsible agencies remain the responsible agencies, so.
It almost looks like a duplication of wording, but
Yeah, but when the document gets formulated and it goes to city planning, they send, I guess they break it down somehow and they send each agency their items.
I see.
So it sort of has to remain by agency. So this is Park Avenue.
That I hope is self-explanatory.
All right, it's Park Avenue from what, Carlton to Emerson? Carlton to Classen?
Which one are you talking about?
Area under the elevated QE requires
Number
paving.
10, number 10.
I think it's from, I mean, Classen all the way to Navy, right?
Navy.
Brian, that's correct. It's become a dumping ground.
I think it's probably Ashland to Washington is the area that we get the most complaints about.
Ashland? Ashland extends over to BQE?
Yeah, that's the eastern edge of Commodore Barry. It's basically the straight part of the BQE before it turns north on both ends. I think
Gosh.
we can figure that out later.
We figure that out, yeah. But yeah, the I was shocked to actually see it myself. The Long Promise 11, the Long Promise electric installation at Myrtle Plaza has not been realized. Problem statement is,
It was left out of the work that was done by the original contractor because of a problem that was discovered. 1.5-year project took 12 years. And when the contractor came back to complete it, he did not install the electricity.
that plaza's been open since when?
Many
At least
years,
7 years, right?
yes. And we are adding it because we haven't been able to get it done otherwise.
Sorry, just to make sure I understand, does that mean that there are no lights?
Excuse me?
I'm just trying to understand. You said no electricity was installed. Was the
The-
purpose of the electricity for lighting or for so people to be able to host events in the space? Or...
Exactly, it's the event electricity. We have the regular street lamps.
Gotcha. Thank you, John.
On where are they pulling electric from currently for their events?
Batteries,
Wow.
they gotta cart them out.
I think I kind of remember when the plaza opened, and I remember that being a thing. Right, so the proposal is to, is it an RFP? Or I don't know, I'll just put an RFP here and figure out how that should be, but essentially is to get it installed. Is everyone good with that? Moving along. 12, pedestrian crossings are often blocked by vehicles not having cleared the intersection, making it difficult for pedestrians to make it across wider streets.
That's a big problem downtown Brooklyn. Specifically, all of the intersections around Flatbush Avenue with all of the traffic and the cars are trying to get through and turn on to certain blocks. Because the blocks are so short, if DOT could adjust the lights at the next succeeding block to have a longer green period, they would be able to relieve that traffic.
Actually, Caroline, I wonder if maybe this is also not a capital or budget request.
I don't think it is either.
I agree with you.
I don't think it's a capital budget expense. I think it's just a
a
statement.
capital way to fix it.
I actually do have a
Except-
capital idea to fix it. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, John.
You
Go ahead. I'll listen to you before I go, Brian. Go ahead.
You're breaking up, Brian, but we want to hear you.
Brian, you're muted.
He's frozen.
I'm gonna
Hey,
kill his
sorry.
video. See if. Go
Sorry
ahead.
about that. So, I mean, I think a good capital way to solve that, and the way that this is dealt with in most other countries, is the light fixture or the where signals are placed for intersections is modified. So as long as there is a light, like a traffic signal over the center of the intersection, people have a incentive to drive into the intersection. So in a lot of other countries, what they do is that the light is only visible before the intersection. So if you creep past the light you can't see it. So you have no idea when your light turns green. So DOT could change, there's actually a good example of this on Christie Street, or I'm sorry, Allen Street and Delancey, where they removed the far side signal to prevent people from doing this because they were blocking the crosswalk and the bike lanes. They could do the same thing. They could get rid of the far side signal so that people no longer have an incentive to block intersections.
But that's not a capital.
Genius. Do you have
It is
time
capital.
to author this one tonight?
Yeah, I can fill that in. I mean, this is very much a capital expenditure.
I like it. It annoys me when drivers drive right up into the intersection, even when they know they can't clear the intersection.
Well, that also has to do with, just that everything is so much busier. People are just sort of forcing their way through to get where they're going.
Even when they're going nowhere.
Can I ask a question? I'm sorry, I'm not part of, I mean, I live in Clinton Hill, but is it just an open meeting to join to comment, or is it inappropriate, or?
Well, now, we would normally do all of the committee work, but this is basically a discussion, and it's nothing we're going to vote on tonight. So do go ahead.
Okay. You mean if you have a thought to share it or a question or something?
Yeah, please do. Go ahead, speak.
Oh, I mean, it's interesting to hear. I guess sort of related to this number 12. I have a sort of a bigger broad stroke question about how does my particular intersection is, well, you have two, but Washington and Lafayette. So really all of Washington Avenue from Fulton all the way to maybe Willoughby. What is the most effective and efficient way to go about petitioning the sidewalks, what are they called? Like the jots out?
Bulb out.
Sorry?
The bulb outs or the ramps, are they wider so they go out?
It just comes out at the corner, when you meet the light. What is it called?
Bulb.
Sorry, you're all sort of gapping out. What is it?
Bulb out?
No, I haven't.
A curb, a ramp?
You know what I'm talking about. It's like, at the corner, it's like a protective sidewalk. So at the corners.
That is a bulb out.
That is a bulb.
Okay. I'm sure you guys know more than I do, right? And speed bumps. So I guess that's my question. How does one go about petitioning for those? Because our block, so between Fulton and going towards the Navy Yard, right? On this particular block, and I've lived here for over 20 years, we have a very busy church, the Brown Memorial Church, that's super crowded, right? That has a lot of members. We have PS 11, an elementary school. And then we have the playground next to it, a big playground / park. Then that would be
Shelley, for the sake of time, because we have to get to 29 on this list, do you
Yeah.
think you could express the problem as a sentence? We all live in the neighborhood.
Oh, yeah. No, I guess I'm just wondering. So I guess, yes, for all these different reasons, that's the question. Going back, how do we as a block association or neighbors, citizens go about, petitioning for those curbs? They seem to have stopped them at Carlton and Lafayette.
I'm going to defer
and
to
speed bumps on
Washington
Avenue.
committee, but this sounds to me like it's not related to the statement of needs that we're working
It
on
is
right
not
now.
related to the
I
statement
think
of
the
needs.
simple answer
You
is.
should put a request into DOT.
Right, to 311.
I know, but here's the thing. Okay, this is sort of like what you guys are responding to me, and how you are as a community board is our frustration as a neighbor. I've called the community board with no response. Emailed them, or we have, several of us. We've put in a 311. We've put in DOT. So it's that bureaucratic sort of response that's very frustrating.
Okay, so Shelley, I hear you. I'm Carol Ann Church, and I'm the assistant manager. And so let me just take a quick minute to explain the process for you.
Okay, that would be great.
Great. When for items such as you describe, it does have to go into the DOT system online. When you go onto the DOT website, there's contact DOT, and then there's an online form where you send a message to the Brooklyn DOT Borough Commissioner. And what they do in terms of speed bumps is they'll study it. And they're actually federal guidelines for whether or not a speed bump can go on a street. And they usually respond. They do the study and they respond. It'll take a couple of months, but you do get a response once it's complete. But feel free, if you have any reference numbers, to please send in the reference numbers to the office, bk02@cb.nyc.gov.
You will get a reference number. That you should write that
Right.
down and
No, I did.
send it to Caroline.
Mhm.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Thank you.
So next up, bike lane conflict with 88 precinct vehicles.
But I don't think that's neither a capital or an expense. I mean, that's a complaint. There's
Correct.
nothing that,
Next. Can I say something about that actually? Not just on the, yeah, I guess Classen Avenue. I think that could be done with some bollards or something, especially on Classen Avenue. That sidewalk is completely covered with cop cars parked in the, whatever that, they park, like they back up onto the sidewalk, and you cannot pass if you have any sort of like cart or stroller or wheelchair, God forbid, and it's just a mess. And I think that we cannot trust them to move their cars. People have been bringing that up for months and months and years. And I think there needs to be some bollards or something installed on that sidewalk.
I will share with you that is a suggestion that has been made. It is very difficult to implement, but yes, what you are speaking to is exactly what the community board has been recommending for years now. It's the police.
But if there's bollards, they can't park.
Let's see. This might again be something that has to be probably negotiated out. I know the cops say, because I saw this and I spoke with someone at the precinct, and they said, well, during shift changes, it's really difficult. They do take up some extra space. But it's probably, it needs a longer conversation.
No, it doesn't. They take up the whole sidewalk. It's covered with their cars. I don't know if anybody's been down there recently. It's never not covered fully with parked cop cars. It needs to be blocked off by bollards so they cannot park there any longer. And when they're not parked in there, they park inside the playground. It's ridiculous.
Shelley, I see your question. If you can hold on probably till the end, we could probably talk a little bit more.
It's okay. We don't have to talk about it anymore. It was just that I thought I wanted to apologize. Whoever responded to me before you, Caroline, I thought was sort of dismissive. So as a rep of our neighbors, we thought this would be a place to ask those questions and seek some advice and help. We didn't think of it as a place you would actually be solving it, because we've been running into so many obstacles, right? Like walls for so long, for years. This is not just now. So anyways, that was we all live in the same place. When someone says that, like, oh, we live there too, we know. So I find that very completely not community minded and dismissive.
Well, this forum is for us to get through.
Okay, so we understood. So this is not the forum. Now that we know that, though, see, we didn't know that. We've tried, like I explained to you, we've tried so many different ways.
So we've heard that. I told you that this has been on our list for many years, and we're looking to get it resolved. We haven't been able to get it resolved.
What has been on your list? You didn't tell me that. What?
Bollards. I did say that. I said that it's actually on the list here when you get further down.
Oh, okay.
Sure. Okay. So next one. I think I see where that other thing came from. And this is Mr. Doos. Increased traffic congestion and resultant safety hazards due to exponential population growth in downtown Brooklyn. Our proposal is a comprehensive analysis of traffic patterns to facilitate redesigns of routes to reduce congestion.
Sounds like something I've
So I believe that DOT and Brian, have we lost Brian? Brian's,
I'm here.
okay. It might be that DOT already does these studies. And are you familiar with them?
You're not asking me.
I mean, I know the downtown Brooklyn traffic study from 2004.
That's the last one you're aware of. Okay. Now, you know, Brian is an encyclopedia of all the studies, so that's why I asked him if he knew whether they're being done. But yes, comments on this one?
Nope, we can go to the next one.
I think John probably has a more encyclopedic knowledge on this topic than I do, but thank you, Kara.
Okay, 15, ongoing COVID-related tenant vacancies are hurting retail and restaurant recovery. The district needs to ensure that transportation options are attractive for rebuilding the local economy.
I don't know what that, how does that apply to a capital or?
I think there's something in there. I just think it doesn't follow the format.
So let's go on to the next one.
But what does that mean? Do we omit it? Do we, what?
It's not clear that it's a capital or the other category. It's not explained. How do you attach?
I don't understand it either, John. I think it can be eliminated, quite frankly.
Okay. High incarceration rates for low-level crimes result in increased social and economic disparities, particularly for people of color. Our proposal is increase restorative programs and justice, increase community restorative programs, justice programs, and mental illness treatment.
Caroline, I
That's
feel like
happening.
the spirit of this has been covered more completely in some of the Hess requests.
I think that's probably
Yeah.
more to it. Yes,
Yeah.
it's more that
Definitely
the
belong in-
Hess's
Yeah, it doesn't
area,
belong- that's not a transportation and public
not a
safety.
transportation issue.
Nope.
Not just delete.
Yeah.
Okay, so we had some other comments here. And I said comments because couldn't think of how to even phrase those. Oh, here's one. Local businesses are reporting loss of business due to traffic issues at Flatbush, Atlantic, and Pacific.
We covered that elsewhere. That's covered in my request for the downtown Brooklyn traffic analysis. So that's done. That's a replication.
I can hit delete.
Yep.
Okay. Countdown clocks at all bus stops.
Yep.
I think John's against that.
That's a good one, Cyril.
This might be a definite, that might be, but this is an MTA item.
Can I note that about when it comes to John Dew has brought up a few times about developers being able to contribute to transit improvements. I haven't reviewed that language, so I may be wrong about this or like the way money can be used. But elevators in particular are very expensive for the MTA. It's tens of millions of dollars. However, I think maybe we should consider in your recommendations and land use and so on, bus stops that could use upgrades like seating, countdown clocks, and things like that. I think those are a little bit more accessible to getting completed with a smaller budget that developers may be able to contribute to instead of elevators.
Thank you, Nicole.
Nothing replaces elevators. It's in addition to elevators.
I don't see the reason why we would replace elevators.
Not
No, we
replace,
don't.
but in terms of money that, like, if you had a list of bus stops in the district that needed upgrades, those could be
Transfer the
updated.
money from the elevator money to the upgrades to the bus.
We're
The
not
state,
talking
the
about
state
bus-
needs to fund the elevators. They're too expensive for any developer to contribute to. I think you'd have a much larger impact in being able to make bus stop upgrades much more quickly and much more using much less money that you can spread out more over bus stops and let the state capital program handle elevator improvements.
So the thing about the bus stops and the seating and the infrastructure at bus stops, there's actually a contractor that takes care of that, and they get their funding through the advertisement on the bus stops.
You know, to Nicole's point, I think that several council members have used their discretionary funds, or it may have also been done through participatory budgeting to add countdown clocks to bus stops in certain council districts.
You're
Yes, and
correct,
actually
Brian.
another thing that I think Senator Montgomery did was open up some closed subway entrances using some discretionary funds. Again, much cheaper than an elevator, which is tens of millions of dollars per elevator.
If we can leave the elevators separate, elevators are an ADA federal government requirement. They are going to be pushed wherever possible. We need to have ADA compliance throughout the transit system. It's that way for the buses. It needs to be that way for the subways. The expense is important and has to be taken into account. And that's why they're not all done yet. There's a plan to do all of them that spreads out 20 or 25 years. That's unacceptable. Only 25% of the stations today are ADA compliant. That is unacceptable today. So that is separate from everything else we're talking about now, and it's going to be handled and funded separately. So Carol Ann, move on next.
Second entrance. I guess this is York Street. Just the phrase says York Street.
Yes.
Okay, this is again an MTA issue. Okay, then we have, so the 88th and the 84th precinct provided a list. I thought I had the information in here. Provided a list of vehicles and the number of personnel that they'll need, or that they'd like to have.
Where did that come from?
The 84 and the 88 precincts.
They submitted a request?
Mm-hmm.
The precincts submitted a request to the community board to be included in our request?
Yes, it should work. That's how it should work, actually. We should be having organizations, social services organizations, community organizations saying to us what their needs are.
I gotta think about that. That sounds.
You know,
It's-
we need more foot patrols. I don't get that. They just want to have more cars to ride around and patrol. Is that what that means?
I'm not sure I understand. If I mean, the captain will decide how they want to, how they would like to allocate the resources.
Community boards have never been involved in providing police equipment, including cars. I don't understand how we would have any impact. The police department has this huge budget. They take care of all of that themselves.
Well, it's not
So-
like the money, oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
I'm just not understanding how the community board is getting involved in supplying or authorizing or promoting police vehicles. It just doesn't make any sense.
I guess they're asking us for our endorsement of this idea. Caroline,
not
did
in our
they
capital-
submit
not
a,
in our-
did they submit a letter, Caroline?
No,
They-
no, I asked if there were anything, okay, so I called the senior center and I said, is there anything you would like us to ask for? And that is the way the process really should work.
Okay,
Right.
but not with the
That
police
we
department.
advocate for, we've been advocating for the 8A to get their building renovated for years.
Yeah, but that's a facility. That's not equipment. The 88th precinct is a facility. Police cars, it's equipment, and is funded through the police budget.
It
That's
might
not
be a
the-
capital expense, actually. It's possible vehicles are on the capital budget.
Vehicles are not capital. Let's
No,
not get
no,
this all. It's
it depends.
Let's not confuse it. This is a new request because it doesn't make any sense that the community boards have anything to do with authorizing or promoting police vehicles. That should not be on our list. It should not replace something else on our list. It
As
just should.
Patrick said, maybe what they're asking for us is to maybe issue a letter of recommendation.
But then it doesn't go on our.
Doesn't go
list.
on here. I agree with you.
That's
It wouldn't
my
be on
point.
here,
But
but it
so
would be a
we're
separate
dealing
issue.
with the list. We're
Yeah.
dealing with the list. Let's deal with that separate.
Okay. I'm not tied into any of this, but I just want to say though, that this is not unnatural. They've also been on the TPS statement for years requesting additional personnel. And this should also be somewhat considered the norm for the way we construct our needs statement. We can of course say, no, we don't think we want to do this, and that's fine. But I just want to make it clear that it's not irregular. So, that's
Carolyn,
it.
I have one question. Did we ever put that into our needs before?
Personnel,
No, cars. Was it ever
not to
something?
my knowledge.
How about personnel?
I believe personnel has been in there for the 84th precinct.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Can you scroll down just 1 or 2 lines? Thank you.
Okay, so that's it for us. So I take it that the 10 items we have here are what we'll wordsmith them, see if we can put in some data, and that's what's going to make it onto the spreadsheet for vote by the full board. Any comments? Questions? We agree that these 10 items are going to be what we're working with?
I think
Hearing
we
no
are.
objections?
I think we are.
Not even 10, might be 7. That's great. It's
Okay.
great that it's 7. We don't need to have a whole lot. We need to have substantial problem needs that can be added and you know, taken into consideration, sorry, by the agencies.
For your time,
Okay, let's move on because we're past 8 o'clock. So, Carol Ann, Taya, thank you so much. Now, what's next? This all the committees are doing this and we'll then do our voting?
We are the last committee to complete the process, along with land use, our agenda back, May, June, when we should have been talking about it was kind of overwhelming. So look out for a survey, maybe Monday. We ask as soon as you get the survey, please.
Tomorrow.
Tomorrow, okay. On
Well,
it.
we're gonna hold you to it. Can't have a weekend.
Please.
I
as
do
soon
have,
as-
I do have one thing to add. You mentioned, Carol Ann, before, I don't want to take too much time with this, but you mentioned that our job is to reach out and listen to the community and then look what each area is looking for and then adopt it to our needs. Am I correct?
Yes, that's the way ideally it should be
All
done.
right, so my question to you is, how have we done it in the past? And can we improve that to reach out to the community in the future?
We
I mean,
definitely,
this person who was talking about her issue with the bumps seemed to be, we didn't seem to answer that question. I'm just wondering, I don't want to make this a long discussion. I'm just saying, maybe that's something we should take up and think about it in the future to how do we publicize it for the rest of the community to let them know they have a choice to send in their information to us, because that's our
Sarah,
job.
you're
So
absolutely
we-
correct, and we're going to have a new plan in January. We just need to put this year's to bed.
yeah, this year we couldn't really, being short-staffed, there wasn't just a whole lot of bandwidth to do this the way we would have liked to. But Shelley's question actually should have just been sent to the board office for a response. That doesn't, doesn't really need to be on a needs statement. But
I agree with you, but I think it brought up a much bigger point, and I think I'm glad we're going to look into it for the next time.
we're going to be doing a whole lot on public engagement. And we actually, breaking news, we do have a planning fellow, and part of their project would be how to increase public engagement in this process.
So I just want to say thanks for addressing it. I appreciate it. And I guess part of the disconnect, yes, it would be whoever spoke before. It would be great for, obviously, I'm representing our neighbors, but place that we don't know where to go. Do you know what I mean? That's what it is. So there should be some sort of information about where can the community speak or seek resources, kind of thing. That's it. Yeah.
Are you signed up to our for our newsletters?
Yeah, that's how I know of the meeting. That's why we all agreed that I would go as a representative, because I mean, I work at a public school, I know how it's difficult to get things done. Anyways, but that's what we thought, because like I said, maybe, yeah, that's
Okay.
it. I'm not going to keep you.
Let's move. Yeah, thank you. Now let's move on.
Thank you.
The next item on the agenda is the chairperson's report. The only thing that I have, because we didn't see any CompStat this month, and Sid didn't indicate anything else to me, but there is a new proposed schedule for committee meetings and the general meeting. The proposed schedule would basically have us trade with the general meeting. The schedule proposes that that we would meet, Transportation Public Safety would meet on the first Thursday of the month, and the general meeting would always be on the third Thursday of the month. And I mean, there's a schedule coming up, and you can see everybody else where they go. Carol Ann and Taya, is the exec committee looking for comment? Is this a done deal? What is the
We just need a check-in from each of the committees that there are no significant problems with this schedule, because the executive committee is going to take a vote on implementing this schedule starting in January. But the vote
Okay.
happens at the next October meeting, next Monday, right?
Okay, so I mean, it makes it, I don't know exactly what the exec committee is going to do, because they usually approve what the committee has done in the prior month, but now the board will be there to approve everything for the prior month. It'll just mean that we've always had the problem of something that we do, especially time considerations, we don't have enough time. I don't know how this changes it, but just for the committee to know, it's going to be a Thursday. So if you didn't have a standing meeting on a different Thursday in the month, you're not gonna have any trouble. But if you have a first Thursday meeting somewhere else, we're gonna switch to, if the board, or if the exec committee approves it, we're gonna switch to the first Thursday. But now the general meeting will always be on a Thursday, the third Thursday. So,
This committee actually specifically stands to benefit quite a bit because on the left side with the current schedule, when your meeting happens on a Thursday, that means you either have 1.5 business days to scramble to be prepared for the executive committee vote, or you have to wait 3 weeks for the next month's general meeting. In the new schedule on the right, if you're meeting on the first Thursday of the month, that means you have 2 weeks to prepare any additional statements before the full board meeting on the
I
third
agree.
Thursday.
And I've gotten the bum's rush to get minutes out for an exec committee meeting. And sometimes it doesn't happen, or they're always in draft. I agree that it's helpful from an issue that comes to us that we vote. We're all going to have it fresh in our minds because we're going to come back 2 weeks later and vote on at the general board meeting. I just point that all out. So that's a heads up to the board. You'll hear to the board members, committee members who are board members, that you will be hearing about that at the next board meeting, which will still be the second Wednesday of the month, except isn't that Veterans Day?
Veterans Day is Thursday. And if folks comment on the schedule, feel free to do so. It's not set in stone. It's what you know, it's a suggestion. It's to be voted on, so therefore comment can be.
Yeah, we'll all get a chance to do that. And so now I don't have anything else in the chair's report. Are there any committee members who have any business they want to bring up?
Yes, am I on, Sandy?
You are.
Okay, I would like to see if we can get NYPD at the next meeting to talk about the delivery bikes on the sidewalk, the e-bikes and the mopeds, and find out what they're saying in terms of enforcement or other issues that they could inform us about.
I think that's a good suggestion, Sandy.
But I suspect that dealing with the precinct, they'll probably want the questions in advance, and therefore we might not get them at the next meeting. But certainly Carol Ann can reach out and see when we can have somebody. I mean, who would we want? Obviously, we'd like to have the CO, but is there somebody in the hierarchy who we should better speak to about that? And I don't even know if is that the traffic division, or is it the precinct that would handle that issue, if anybody knows?
It would be traffic, especially when you're talking about, like, I made a note here actually to ask about getting someone out to discuss both the truck enforcement issue and the electric assist and motorized bimodal vehicles. But traffic enforcement is a different division of the police department, so we'd have to get them out as well.
Yeah, and also, and unfortunately Cheryl's not here because she's our wise person on police issues, and I don't know, are any of the committee members going to the 84th Precinct Council meetings besides Cheryl? Has anybody gone to the last meeting, or are they meeting for that matter?
I
don't
didn't
know that they're meeting. I used to go, but I don't know that they're meeting these days.
All right, well, we have Sandy's suggestion.
I'm sorry, not the 84. I'm talking about the
office
88. I'm sorry.
Let the office go forward and see if they can find an appropriate person to come to talk about that issue. Any other committee members have business?
Yes, Carol
Yes.
Ann didn't include my letter. I submitted a request to have DOT study, believe it or not, removal of the meters on DeKalb Avenue between Ashland and Flatbush Avenue, because we now have a severe problem with the tandem buses that when they pull up and they stop at the light. If there are two buses behind each other, which happens very often, the second bus opens the doors and the passengers discharge in front of the parked cars. That's a common problem. Passengers want to get off the bus. The bus driver always opens the door and allows the passengers to exit on the street next to cars. The bus doesn't have an opportunity to pull up to the curb. The community board asked for those meters to be installed years ago to replace parking that was taken away on another block. We're going to be the bigger people and ask for those meters to be removed so that that portion of the block can be returned for a bus stop.
But you mean it's just, they are at the, they adjoin, those parking spaces adjoin the bus stop in front of it, in front of those
Yes.
parking spaces?
Yes.
And where is
Yes.
that again, John? Say it again.
It's on DeKalb Avenue just before, it's on DeKalb Avenue just before you get to Flatbush
Right.
Avenue.
By LIU.
So you mean that it's, and how many, but isn't there an entrance to the LIU garage and everything there? How many spaces, how many meters are there?
Probably 5 or 6.
All right, well,
John?
I mean, obviously they have to make a study about that. They're not gonna just do it because we asked them to do it. And it's more that the buses are bunching up. The issue, it would seem to make the to stop the buses from bunching.
John, they put the meters there at the request of the community board many years ago because they took spots away and we said you had to replace them. That
Okay,
was
but did they get those?
spot.
But that's still the case, isn't it? Those spaces that were taken away haven't come back.
They're not coming back and they're going to be lost. They're going to be lost for the sake of safety. This
Well,
is a request.
All right, well, you know, we'll talk about that. That's a request.
The
that we should
request
have-
for them to study it. It is not a request for them to remove it. Is it
Oh,
or
okay.
it's a request for them to study the
That's fine.
intersection?
Okay,
So,
any other
John-
board members?
Yeah, I just want to ask John just for clarification. This is specifically on DeKalb between Hudson and Flatbush, right?
Yes,
Thank you.
yes.
Okay, any other board members have other business?
Just one bit of context, or it relates to a comment John made, which I think was an important one. John, the BQE's lane reduction and then the planned weight in motion detection has raised concerns in the community about where that traffic has gone. So that's definitely not that issue is out there. And the coalition is working with DOT to try to address those issues, partly because some of the communities that are affected by it are Dumbo and Cobble Hill, and you know, they're on the coalition. So it is an important issue. And so I just wanted to make sure that it wasn't off the radar. I think DOT's perspective is that they have this kind of like urgent life extension plan, you know, and so they're trying to do whatever they can to make sure that roadway doesn't fail. But they need to make sure that other communities don't suffer as a result. So so just FYI, it's on the radar.
Thank you, Patrick. Any
Can
other
I say
board-
something? Hi, this is Latrell.
Well, no, Latrell, we'll have community forum in just a minute. This was just new business, any other business from committee members?
I need a vote on that letter, John.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna ask.
Well, no, the letter to ask for a study, I think we have to, you know, I haven't seen the letter and I don't think anybody else has seen the letter. So we'll put it
There
on
is
the
no letter.
agenda. for next-
There is no letter. The committee.
So you're requesting that we send a letter and ask for a study?
We have to send it to the board. This
Wait,
committee.
Wait. So that's really, well, I think that should go on the agenda. That's not something, I think that we should give all the committee members a chance to know that. They don't know that we're discussing that issue. So bringing it up is that, I think you should make a request that that be an item on the agenda next month. It's not fair to the other committee members to take a vote on an issue that they didn't know was coming up. That's what agendas.
I don't disagree with that, but I submitted it to the board office to be put on the agenda.
Okay, well, that's nothing that I can take care of. Any other board members with business? Brian?
No, this is to the John Dew's point. I mean, I'm not really sure what anybody needs to do to prepare to know. We're talking about asking DOT to look into expanding a bus stop. I'm not sure what research we'd need to do in the next month to discuss the issue.
No, but that's at the same, and I'm not sure that it is, but that seems to be a 311 request. I mean, you're asking DOT to do something. You can, and then DOT can decide whether they're going to study it or not.
John, I'm making the request because the community board had the meters installed in the first place. So I'm asking them to study whether it's time to take them out because of the tandem buses and passengers are being discharged in the middle of the street, not the curb. This is a safety issue. I don't see where the community needs to weigh in on asking DOT to make a study on something. We don't ask the community normally.
I'm suggesting, John, that you put that in as a 311 request and let DOT let DOT comment on that request. I mean, there are lots of things that, I mean, and coming back to Shelley's point about a bulb out, that's a DOT request.
John, the meters, I keep explaining to you, the meters were installed at the request of Community Board 2. So it's time for them to come out. This is not a 311.
So can I cut in here for a second? So here's what we're asking DOT to come to our next meeting. So it's something that we can raise. We'll write it up nice, right, John? You and I will write it up nice, and we'll present it to DOT and say, and then it's up for committee discussion at that same time, and you have DOT there. I'll try to make sure Keith Bray is on. And either way, it's going to have to be studied before they do it, but that can take care of this part of the conversation.
Thank you, Caroline.
Any other? Okay. That's it for committee members. Now we're open for community forum. Latrell, you wanted to say something, so let's start with you.
Hi, I was just following up with Patrick because he spoke about the traffic concern in all the surrounding communities. And here we go again. Farragut was not included. Farragut has a very high traffic problem with the BQE and the Brooklyn Bridge from Navy and Sands to Sands and Navy, from Gold and Sands going towards the Brooklyn Bridge is really congested. It's going to be an accident. Physically, somebody's going to get hurt. We need traffic officers or something in that area because it's really, really bad in the rush hour, in the morning time, in the evening. So I just want to make sure that's brought up and known about the Farragut community, and it's a surrounding community too. I spoke to Dumbo Action Committee and they have the same concern in their community. So it's affecting all of us. So it's in all the surrounding areas. So I'm not taking away from the rest of Brooklyn, but I'm speaking about the downtown area, Farragut, Vinegar Hills, and Dumbo area. The traffic.
Latrell, it's Zero. I think what you're saying is absolutely correct. And I'm on one of those committees. And one of our main topics was to reach out to the areas that abut the BQE after the cantilever. And I would like to talk to you about it. Maybe you could be involved in that outreach so we can have those communities also included in what we're trying to do. So you probably have, I can give you my email and we could chat about it. But what you're saying is actually true. I think we do want to have all of the communities that abut the BQE involved, not just the cantilever and that area. It does affect especially asthma and noise.
Yes.
So I think what you're saying is correct. You can get in touch with me on my email and we could chat further.
Thank you.
All right, anybody else have anything to say? And Charlie should add Concord Village to the list of communities that abut the BQE that are concerned about all the traffic issues that you just talked about. But
Well, I
okay,
just try to jump in behind Patrick, so I was trying to fix everything. But yes, it's true because y'all was lucky to get a walkthrough with DOT, the 84th and 11th office. So, you know, y'all was the Concord community is very lucky because they would not do that for the Farragut community.
any other community comments? Anybody else in the community
Yep.
want to be heard? Yeah, Nicole?
Hi, yeah, it's been a few months since I've been on this committee meeting, but at the last few ones I had been on, I just reviewed last month's Community Board 2 crash stats, and I'd like to do that again quickly, just so people know what the numbers are for last month of reported crashes in the Community Board. So for September last month, there were 78 total reported crashes in Community Board 2, resulting in 19 cyclists injured, 11 pedestrians injured, 48 motorists injured, and 1 person killed. And I believe that was the 3-month-old child that was hit on the sidewalk last month by a car.
And we discussed that at the beginning of, we actually held a moment of silence at the beginning of our last meeting because of that. Thank you. Anybody else?
I just wanted to ask clarification, just from Nicole. That was crashes in Community District 2 for September, injuries, and fatality. Okay, thank you.
Seeing nobody else?
Can I just say one thing, please? And
Go ahead.
I did say surrounding communities, and I apologize if I didn't include Concord Village.
No, no apology necessary. I
We
just
want
wanted to-
we want both of you on the coalition. We'll be in touch for sure.
Okay.
It's great.
All right. Seeing no other, approval of minutes. Any comments or corrections to the
Mr.
minutes of
Quinn?
September 14th? Yes.
Mr. Quint, I just wanted, I know that sometimes we forget to Shelley's point, if you are new to a community board meeting, it may be confusing to parse what parts of the agenda are for what purpose. So I just wanted to check in and make sure that Ms. Bistasar is aware that this is the community forum where any member of the public can speak on any topic related to transportation and public safety. Did you want to speak?
You're muted.
That's okay. I said what I had to say. I guess the timing was wrong, and that's because I'm new to this, and so if I was greeted with a bit more subtleness or kindness, that would have been better. Now I would have known to save it to here.
Come back, it'll be a better.
And not feel like I'm being reprimanded. But now I know for the future, and I'll share that with the other reps. Yeah.
Thank you.
But thank you.
Shelley, thank you from the office again. I just want to say thank you for coming. Thank you for sticking through it. It was a little long, but you stuck with it, and we hope that you come to more meetings.
Seeing no other business, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. Actually, we should have a vote that hopes that Mr. Meyer returns safely. But I'm sure he'll have a good time and he'll tell us all about it next month. Anything else?
I asked Sid to bring all of us tchotchkes from the Galapagos.
Yeah, I doubt it. We can hope. I'll send him an email.
Motion to adjourn.
Thank you. Anybody in opposed? If not, everybody have a very good evening and we'll see you in a month.